The air outside was still heavy with heat when Dave and I walked home from the restaurant. I pulled my hair up off the back of my neck with one hand and fanned it with the other in my best Southern Belle impression. "My golly, Mr. Turner, isn't sundown supposed to promise some relief?" Dave was silent. I dropped the twang. "We weren't talking about you in there." "I know." His hands were in his pockets, his eyes straight ahead on the sidewalk. Obviously, his light-hearted dinner banter had been an act. "We were talking about Sloane."
"Your sister, Sloane?"
"Are there any others?"
"There's a Sloane at work, in word processing."
"Yeah, not that one." I shoved him affectionately, even though it really was far too hot for contact. In response to my touch, his shirt suctioned to his side. "She emailed about a possible visit. They're being really bottled up."
"They probably just don't want to focus on it. Why waste time planning for something that's never going to happen?"
"Maybe." My mom didn't have to divulge the real reason she'd excluded the boy from the announcement. She was embarrassed, worried that sharing our demons was like showing off a club foot on the first date. Dave and I had been married for 2 years after all, and only a handful of people really knew about Sloane. The three of us and our close family friends, the Rabinowitzes, who had been around that last horrible year and borne witness, namely by babysitting me for long stretches of time. Dave's work phone rang. He removed it from his pocket and glanced at the screen before returning it.
"When's the last time she was here?"
My mom has flown to California a few times to try to see her, I think. But the last time Sloane was here and I knew about it was, I calculated, 20 years ago.
How old is she now?
36.
I almost forgot she's a real person.
That's exactly what I thought earlier. She hadn't been a real person to me as much as a rallying cry. "Attica! Remember the Maine, the mistakes of Sloane Reinhardt." If I strained hard enough, I could access faint memories of her, normal sister stuff, running through the sprinkler in our old front yard, and the time she hit me with a rented tennis racket at the town courts and wailed over and over, "But it was an accident!" I'd needed stitches under my eye, and she'd spent all of her allowance money on a teddy bear for me with my name stitched on its heart. This was the one I'd never forget, the one that was crystal clear while the others were hazy. I'd been a babyish 11, still sleeping every night with a nightlight, a pile of stuffed animals, and my bedroom door wide open. I'd like to pretend this lack of maturity was a reaction to family tensions, but I can't. I don't remember sensing them at all. That night, I was asleep until I heard a crash that made me sit up in my bed, my stomach knotting in fear. I lay back down, but then I heard a clanging and a man's voice, rough, loud. I waited for my parents to do something before I remembered that they were out, which meant Mrs. Chanikowski, the neighbor from 3 houses away, was snoring on the daybed in the spare room down the hall. I went into Sloane's room, but it was empty. My clock said 1 in the morning, so I tried to go back to sleep, but I heard more voices, and then laughter. I could tell from the way the light shone up the stairs that it was coming from the living room, so I grabbed a baton. I still hadn't mastered twirling, but perhaps I could swing it at someone, and inched down the stairs until I could peer down. They were in a circle, 5 of them. Sloane and 4 guys who were probably all still in high school. To me, they looked like men. Broad-shouldered, stubbly-faced, hands like cuts of raw meat. One of them was passed out. Another had a little metal canister and a yellow party balloon. He'd filled the balloon, shot the air in his mouth like I'd seen people do with party balloons and helium, but then instead of his voice coming out like Mickey Mouse, he fell back, gasping and laughing, before crashing into a glass cabinet that broke in pieces around him. He rubbed his head with his hand, and there was blood everywhere. "Fuck," he said, and Sloane grabbed one of my mom's throw pillows and pressed it to his head before grabbing the balloon. It probably was from a prior